this section, we're going to be talking about using verb tenses, observing verb tense consistency, and active and passive voice. So we're working through pages 102 through 105. Go ahead and get out your workbook, and let's turn to page 102. Look at the different verb tenses that are listed on page 102. Present tense, past tense, future tense. Those are your major three. And then you've got present perfect, past perfect, future perfect. And anytime we say perfect, we mean we're adding has or have. If we're saying past perfect, we're adding had. If we're adding future perfect, then we're doing will have or shall have. So future perfect tense is going to have a lot of helping verbs attached to the actual verb. So present tense, first person, I see. Past tense, I saw. Future tense, I will see. Present perfect tense, I have seen. Past perfect tense, I had seen. Future perfect tense, I will have seen. So take a few moments, pause the audio, look at page 102, read through each of the tenses and each of the persons, the first person, second person, and third person, and become very familiar with the information on 102 because it's going to really inform our studies of the next few pages. Okay, let's go to page 103, and we're going to work through exercises A, B, and C, the evens, together. Okay, so for exercise A on page 103, it says label the italicized verb as present, past, future, present perfect, past perfect, or future perfect tense. So basically that's just a list of all the tenses that are featured on page 102. Okay, so the first thing that we have to do when we look at a sentence to determine the tense of the verb is to determine what is the verb. Well, in exercise A, they've already done the work for us. So number 2, exercise A, Ruth had forsaken her family and friends in order to serve God. Had forsaken. Okay, immediately, bing, 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 has, have, or had. That means we're going to be in the perfect tenses. Okay, and so the only tense in the perfect section that uses had is past. So your answer here is past perfect. Number 4, I speak on behalf of the class, began the valedictorian. Speak. It doesn't have any helping verbs with it, so we know it's not perfect. So then we look over here in the present, past, and future. It doesn't have will, so it can't be future. And it doesn't have a participle attached to it, so it's got to be present tense. Speak. Present tense. And then number 6, they will have prayed for 2 hours during the prayer chain. Oh my goodness, look at that string. We've got 2 helping verbs there. So we know we're going to be down here in future perfect. Will have prayed. Okay. Now you're thinking, okay, future, prayed has ed on the end of it. Isn't that the past tense form of pray? Yes, it is. But when you add will have to the front of it, it makes it future perfect. So pay attention to the entire phrase, not just the anchor verb. Exercise B, number 2, it says in the blank, write the form of the verb indicated in the parentheses. So number 2 asks for the present tense of work. My brother works part-time at the Davidson Creamery. Number 4, we're looking for the past perfect of trick. Okay, past may have ed on it, but perfect is always, past perfect is going to have had in there, had. So Jacob and Rebecca had tricked Isaac into giving Jacob the blessing. Number 6, we're looking for the future of purchase. We can just say that out loud. Will purchase. When we say future, we add will to it, or shall, depending on whether it's formal or informal. If it's future perfect, we're going to say will have purchased. Okay, so will purchase is the answer for number 6. Okay, exercise C on page 103. Let's look at number 2. We're looking for the past of swim. So I swam 4 miles or 4 laps. He swam until he got tired. Number 4, present perfect of wait. I have waited long enough. Or she has waited for her dinner for 3 hours. Number 6, future perfect of break. If he hits that again, he will have broken it 4 times. Okay? So will have or shall have broken. All right, moving on to page 104. We're going to look at exercise A in just a moment, but let's observe verb tense consistency. When you're writing, select one tense and do not change to a different tense without good reason. If you begin writing in the past tense, do not switch to the present. If you begin with the present, do not switch to the past. So here are some examples of how not to do it. William grabs the pass and fell down. No. Whenever he goes out for a walk, he stopped to talk. No. Neither one of those is correct. The consistent forms would be William grabbed the pass and fell down. Or whenever he goes out for a walk, he stops to talk. Or whenever he went out for a walk, he stopped to talk. So make sure that you use consistent verb tense. So let's look at exercise A on page 104. The following paragraph should be written in past tense. Cross out and correct any verbs that are not in the past tense. Do not change verbs that are within quotation marks. Okay, so in the first sentence there, Polycarp, an ancient Christian, served as the bishop of Smyrna for many years. In his youth, he listened to the preaching of the Apostle John and was converted from paganism, okay? Because we started with past tense, we're going to continue with past tense throughout. In his old age, however, he was captured by Roman soldiers. The proconsul directed him to curse Christ, but Polycarp refused to blaspheme his Lord, declaring, 80 and 6 years have I served Christ. How then can I blaspheme my King who has saved me? Now, why don't we change the verbs that are in the quotation marks? Well, because that's what Polycarp said. Okay, that's his actual saying, and it will always be in present tense because it was in present tense when he said it, and it's in present tense now when we're reading it as he said it. It doesn't change, but the words around that phrase will. So let's keep going on. The proconsul condemned Polycarp to death. As he died, Polycarp prayed aloud. In his prayer, Polycarp thanked the Lord that he was deemed worthy to receive the crown of martyrdom. He counted the opportunity to die for Christ a privilege. Okay, now we are ready to move on to active and passive voice on page 105. Okay, so we've talked about verb consistency and verb tenses, and now we're going to talk about active and passive voice because we use different types of verb tenses to achieve an active voice construction or a passive voice construction. Now think about the two words active and passive. Active means up and doing something, there's movement going on, it's not static, there's something happening. Passive also indicates that there's something happening, but it's in a more relaxed manner or a less direct manner. If the subject is doing the action, the verb is in the active voice. Okay, that sounds simple enough. If the subject is receiving the action, the verb is in the passive voice. So an active sentence would be a tornado struck the house. The tornado went over there and struck the house. The house was struck by a tornado. That's passive voice. Notice here we have a helping verb. Was struck for passive, no helping verb for active. Okay, that will help us understand active and passive a little bit better. When the verb is changed from the active to the passive voice, the object of the verb becomes the subject, and the subject becomes the object of a preposition. Matthew proudly accepted the trophy. Matthew is the subject, accepted is the verb. Accepted what? The trophy. That's active voice. Clear and simple, straightforward. Passive voice would be, the trophy was proudly accepted by Matthew. Again, notice, was, that's a helping verb. Was accepted is the verb. Trophy, which was the direct object in the first sentence, becomes the subject. And Matthew, which was the subject in the first sentence, becomes the object of the preposition by. Sometimes the active subject may be omitted altogether in the passive voice. The trophy was proudly accepted. Okay, well, Matthew's not in that sentence anymore. Trophy is a passive subject. The active subject, Matthew, has been omitted in the change from active voice to passive voice. Okay, number 3. A verb in the passive voice must always contain a form of the verb be. Now this is a good hint. Okay, pay attention to this because later we're going to be asking you to tell the difference between active voice and passive voice. Passive voice will always have a helping verb of the be form. Those, go back to your list from earlier in week 1 when we looked at all of those different verbs and the ones that you should have memorized already. Am, is, are, was, were, be, being, been. Those are your be verbs. Those are one form or another of those verbs is going to be in a passive voice construction. Other helping verbs are sometimes used in addition to the form of be and a past participle. So here's an example. The runaway lion was captured at the airport. That's passive voice construction. The runaway lion had been captured at the airport. All right, number 4. In writing, use the passive voice very sparingly. Very sparingly. Overuse of the passive voice causes a weak and awkward style. Remember that. If you ever take AP English, many times your instructor will correct any use of the passive voice. Or if you happen to be writing an essay from one of your upper level English classes, your instructor may tell you that you are using too much passive voice and to change to an active voice because it is stronger.